Hello everyone, we have another restoration. This is quite a challenge. Starting with the rear axle. Penetrating fluid is sprayed to loosen the grip of time, followed by the decisive action of an impact wrench, freeing the wheel assembly. The brake drum is carefully removed, exposing the weathered internals, which are then scientifically disassembled. The focus shifts to the differential. Its cap is opened, and the old dark gearbox oil is drained, clearing the way for a complete overhaul. The intricate internals, including the rack and pinion, are meticulously removed from the main body. Each gear and bearing was taken apart, and the empty housing was thoroughly cleaned, using a scraper and wire brush on a power tool to remove years of accumulated grime. The housing was given a coat of high-gloss black paint applied with a professional spray gun. Attention then turned to the smaller details. Each gear, nut, and bolt was thoroughly washed in a solvent tray until it was spotless. Reassembly was a job requiring precision. New bearings were carefully pressed into place, and the gears were methodically reassembled. The new differential was then gently reassembled into the newly painted housing, a major milestone in the restoration process. The project then moved on to the flying engine. After removing the hood for easier access, another phase of disassembly began. The radiator, fan housing, and cooling fan were all carefully unbolted and lifted off, exposing the engine block. Finally, the large round air filter housing was removed, paving the way for the engine's own detailed restoration. The meticulous engine restoration process begins with the engine block placed on the workbench, the inside covered in thick black mud. The mechanic begins disassembly, removing the cam cover, followed by the cam gears. Attention then shifts to the top end, where the rocker arm assembly is unbolted and lifted off, exposing the valve springs. The cylinder head is then separated from the block, exposing the pistons. The focus shifts to the bottom end. The crankshaft main bearing caps are unbolted and removed one by one, allowing the heavy crankshaft to be carefully lifted out. Finally, the pistons and connecting rods are pushed out of the cylinder heads. Once the engine is completely disassembled, the deep cleaning phase begins. The gasket surfaces are scraped clean, and an angle grinder with a wire brush vigorously scrubs the cam cover and cylinder head, stripping them down to bare metal. Every part, from the main block and head to the crankshaft, is then taken out and blasted with a high-pressure washer, removing all traces of dirt and grease. Smaller parts, including the push rods, lifters, and valve springs, are thoroughly scrubbed in solvent. The refurbishment continues as each piston is taken to the polishing wheel, its surface polished to a mirror-like shine. The connecting rods and their caps are also cleaned and polished. The old piston rings are removed and replaced with new ones. In a crucial step, the valves are ground into the cylinder head with a grinding compound to ensure a perfect seal. Assembly begins with greasing the main bearings and carefully grinding the shiny crankshaft back into the block. The main caps are tightened, followed by the installation of the cleaned pistons and connecting rods, putting the heart of the engine back into action, piece by piece. The restoration begins inside the car's fire-damaged body. The mechanic rips away what's left of the carpet and burned insulation, revealing a floor ravaged by rust and rot. The scene then cuts to a workshop, where the painstaking work of repairing the metal begins. A heavily rusted front fender is laid out, and an angle grinder sends sparks flying as it cuts away the most corroded sections. Hammers bang on anvils as the craftsman painstakingly beats the warped panel back into shape, straightening every curve and edge before cleaning the surface with a wire brush. Then attention turns to a ruined door. The interior panel, brittle and worn, is stripped away, followed by the window frame and all the internal mechanisms. With decisive blows of the hammer and chisel, the window regulator and latch assembly are removed, leaving only the bare, rust-pocked door shell and frame. This outer shell is then thoroughly cleaned, with decades of paint and oxidation removed, revealing the raw metal underneath. A welder is used to carefully stitch cracks and fill holes, reinforcing the panel's structure. The art of bodywork continues. A thick layer of body filler is expertly applied to the repaired door, smoothing out scars and welding imperfections. The same meticulous process is repeated on the front fenders, with the craftsman applying and shaping the filler to restore the complex curves and contours of the wheel arches. Layer by layer, the panels are assembled and contoured, gradually removing signs of damage. Finally, an electric sander is used to smooth the cured filler, creating a flawless surface, ready for the next stage of transformation. The restoration journey began on a paved patio. The focus then shifted to the cylinder head, where the valve train was carefully reassembled. The camshaft was gently lowered into place, followed by the installation of the rocker arm. The entire cylinder assembly was then carefully bolted down, with each bolt tightened to specification. After a final soda spray to clean it, the valve covers were secured, followed by the intake and exhaust manifolds. The carburetor was bolted to the intake manifold, and the timing belt was cleverly routed around its pulley and tensioned. The cam cover was then installed, sealing the front of the engine. Next, the brackets for the alternator and air conditioning compressor were installed, and the components were securely fastened. The pulleys for the accessory belt were reinstalled, and the spark plugs were threaded into the cylinder head, followed by the distributor. After the mechanical work was completed, the engine was given a coat of brilliant cherry red paint, which shined on every surface, as the restored car glided smoothly down the dusty road towards the beautiful sunset. Thank you for following today's car repair journey. Bye. See you in the next video.